think I'll just do this instead of typing. What's up, Nika? Nika Elliott. Reckless says he's playing Undecember, running maps, working on builds. I don't know what any of that means, but I'm going to look it up. Undecember. It's clearly a game. It looks like a, what do you call it, dungeon crawler or whatever. Seems like it's pretty good. Nika says, Nate, would you play Arma or War Thunder with some of the DAGs? Well, I've never played those, but I wouldn't be against it. The main issue is I don't have a lot of time to stream or play games these days. But, you know, every once in a while, it's nice to blow off a bit of steam. I spent a lot of time, not too much time, but I spent a good amount of time working on this video and playing this game. So that should free up some time now that it's done. Maybe we'll get rid of the backsplash here. Close to Path of Exile game-wise. I think I have that because I think it's free. I also have a game in a similar vein that I actually paid for once. Wolf something or other. Let me see if I can find it. When a game is so good that you paid for it and you don't even know what it's called. But no, it was, I actually really liked at least the artwork of it, but the gameplay was just a bit too tedious. I couldn't keep with it. What the heck was it called? Wolson, Lords of Mayhem. Wolson, it was called like that. Tsukuba, what's up, dude? Salutations and good day. Okay. That's gonna loop that song, I think. All right, maybe we'll do this, but the stream hasn't like officially started, okay? The stream hasn't like officially started until Matt gets here. But since I don't live stream very much anymore, it's good for us to kind of just hang out, see what's going on. Matt said about 45 minutes ago. So I'm expecting he'll poke around pretty soon here. He's pretty good when it comes to that kind of stuff. Yeah, how's everyone doing? How's it going? It's been busy. I've been secretly in the laboratory working away at this new hidden meaning of video. It's a response. Maybe I shouldn't. If Matt's not here, we shouldn't talk about it. We'll put it that way. I don't want to give the whole spiel before he comes in, but he hasn't seen it. Only like maybe 2 people have seen it. My wife has seen it, my totally real wife. Also a fellow named Noon Shake, who has a Discord server. Why did I just laugh at that? As if I don't also. What the heck was that? Yeah, the hidden meaning of. This will be the fifth hidden meaning of video. A series that I originally only intended to just be one single video. The Lego movie. And then once that started happening, it started to go from there. Sometimes I would be worried that I would sort of fall into a bit of a pattern and it would kind of get a little bit too repetitious. But some of them have like a very different feel to them. This one has a very different feel. This one's different than all the other ones. Okay, I'm getting a message from Matt here. Okay, I'll initiate. Enshrouded is quite a mouthful. Is it? Enshrouded? To be in the shroud? Enshrouded?
Hello, hello.
Hey, Matt, what's up?
Hey, can you hear me? Am I coming in
You're
loud?
coming in nice and clear for me. Also, we're live right now, so just a
Hey,
heads up.
fantastic.
I figured I'd kind of just get the audience a little bit warmed up before you jumped in.
Are we on the old D live?
We're on D
Oh,
Live.
we're on the old YouTube.
We're also on YouTube as well. Okay, so I'm going to do a share screen here, and I always have issues with this with the audio because sometimes there's no audio. Let's do it this way here. Because you have to be able to see it too in a way that isn't just from the screen. Okay, Matt, you tell me if you can hear this.
Yes, I can hear and see it.
Good, good. Okay, we're off to a good start here. All right. So yeah, I guess let's jump into it a little bit. Matt, have you played the game Enshrouded? Have you heard much of it?
No, is that the upcoming or is that the new game that everyone's talking about?
Yeah, it's in early access right now. It was just released. It's like one of those voxel based games. So you know how with Minecraft you can like break everything, literally everything in the game.
Yeah.
This is the same, except for the graphics are like incredible, and it's got a pretty good like mission set. You know, where Minecraft is just very broad and open. This game is open too, but there's very definitive like missions, and there's like a world and lore and quests and stuff.
I'm sold.
Yeah, yeah. So this game jumped out to me because, for one very distinct reason, every time I make a hidden meaning of video, people will say, "Can you make one that isn't an inversion?" You know, because the whole premise behind my hidden meaning of videos is always like, um, this is an inverted gospel, right? And when I started to look into Enshrouded, I was like, hey, wait a second, I think that this might not be an inversion. And so I've been really following the game closely. And when it came out in early access, I played it and I beat it, and finally have my opportunity to make a hidden meaning of video about it. I like how this one went. I'm happy to see your reaction to the video and everything as well. And yeah, I guess we can just kind of jump into it.
I can't wait. Yeah, these exploration videos that you do on media or topics, these are like candy for me, so I just gobble
Nice,
them up.
nice. Okay, if you need me to stop at any point at all, please let me know. And audience, while you're watching, if you notice that there's any issues with the audio in terms of Matt being too quiet or the video being too quiet, if those are off, let me know and we'll play around with it. In the Hidden Meaning of series, we've made the assertion that the plot to a number of popular media are direct inversions of classical stories, namely the fall of mankind in the Garden of Eden, as though this newer media were allegories of the same story being told from the serpent's perspective, recasting who the heroes and villains are through the use of observable tropes. We find that the protagonists team up with either a secret society, an ancient leviathan, a rogue lieutenant dragon, or a subversive computer program. This leads the characters to accepting the story's version of a forbidden fruit, whether it is an otherworldly relic, a special enzyme, or the ascent of a prohibited tower. Whatever is needed to obtain the forbidden knowledge needed to usurp or defeat the god of each story. The Demiurge. In response to the Hidden Meaning of series, one comment that keeps coming up is, can you analyze any stories that aren't inversions? Up until now, this has been avoided because examples of those stories are less common, and ones that are eligible tend to have already been discussed thoroughly enough by more insightful minds. However, It is possible that we have a new addition to that list, a video game that is still in early access, not yet fully complete. So that's the thing, is it's always like, yeah, all the good stories are already done. That's what makes this so challenging,
Yeah.
you know? I
Well,
have,
and with the other videos or with the other stories that you're analyzing, the world is always evil. I mean, that is the demiurge element, is that the world is evil, or some element of it is corrupted or false, and you need to break out of the world, and this world is like an illusion or a twisted simulation to hold you down. And you could maybe say that about the Matrix too, but at least in the
totally.
Matrix, they're trying to get to something more real.
Well, I have kind of a bit of a theory that, in a way, that's just sort of the point of video games, is that they're like, they're like power fantasies, and they're created to make you feel like you are breaking the rules of the world itself. Like, you're
Mm,
becoming so powerful that you eventually kind of become a god, and you have to fix the whole world by overthrowing the tyrant. It's like, I think I think on some psychological level, there's a reason that video games keep being that. Whereas with movies, it's like they can be a little bit more story driven, in the sense that you can watch a movie and, like, the rom-com genre exists, right? But
yeah.
what is the, like, rom-com version of a video game? It's like,
Huh.
not, those kind of things exist a little bit on the periphery, but it's not the same thing,
Like, there's something about the medium and the artificiality of the medium that leads to the stories being about being in a fake world. Is that the idea?
Exactly. Well, not just being it, because it's like you're already in a fake world by virtue of you playing the video game, but
Yeah.
the 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 like psychological buttons that need to be pressed by your character powering up and getting stronger and stronger and stronger until you're basically like something of a demigod in the world. You can fly around, or you can no longer just jump crappily. You can, like, double jump really high, or you run super fast. Um, and in order to actually motivate you to complete the quest, you're usually kind of trying to save the world in the video game.
Mm,
And in order to save the world, there has to be some sort of threat um, that you would need to overthrow in order to save it in the first place. Whereas in reality, it's like, how do I save the world if I remove Justin Trudeau from office? It doesn't exactly change a whole lot. But
yeah, that's true.
video games are basically built to satisfy this psychological need. And maybe a part of my thesis here is that the psychological need is part of our fallen nature. What do you think of that?
That our fallen nature leads us to have this kind of innate desire to overthrow God.
Yes, and
Is
save the
that the idea?
world.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when it's,
Yeah.
in a way, it's
Yeah.
like it's kind of not for us to save, in a way.
Huh. I think that's a good point. It's like there's something about telling a more humble story that's maybe psychologically or spiritually healthy, or
Yeah, it's like
whereas
we have a part in making things better, but
yeah.
we're not the main character.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Huh, that's profound, yeah.
I have, in here, the review I wrote was great game. I enjoyed over analyzing the theological implications of the plot. My Subnautica review was great game. I liked the fish.
Nice.
Complete. So today we'll be discussing the hidden meaning of Enshrouded.
Cast yourself into the rude beauty of our world. Unlock her secrets. Shape the earth. Dive into the shroud. Seek treasures and ancient wisdom. Build, not for yourself, for you are not alone. Call upon your allies, and together take back your realm.
According to the studio's website, the plot of Enshrouded is as follows. That
So
portion there was a lesson I totally learned from you in your videos, where a lot of times if you're reviewing a piece of media, you're not in a rush. You let the actual vibe of the game itself, like set a bit of a tone and speak for itself.
Mm.
I was like, I really like that about Matt's videos. I need to make sure I make a point of doing that.
Just kind of get immersed.
Yeah.
No, it's cozy. It's cozy.
Mm.
Can you tell me a little bit about the gameplay or the structure? Like, can you actually break stuff in the game, like break the environment or build lots of stuff?
Yeah, like there's a couple of there are some things that you can't break, some structures, like there are these basically towers. Um, think of the like Ubisoft formula of there being
Mm.
fast travel points. There's maybe like 5 or so throughout a pretty large map, and you can then glide out from those points to access other points easier. And those which could kind of be considered dungeons, they don't have breakable walls. But like everything else in the game is breakable, whether it's buildings, whether it's like the stone around you. So, you know,
Wow.
like for instance, there's one area that you're not supposed to be able to get into until you have like the grappling hook. Well, you can just creatively mine your way through the mountainside and get there anyway, right? But
Dude, that's awesome.
yeah, it's like honestly, and it's one of those games where it feels like every snapshot of the game could be like your wallpaper background.
I
Um,
love it.
and the combat isn't very complex. You know, it's mostly like click on the thing to kill it, and you can kind of like dive out of the way. That's really sort of what it boils down to. There's different ranges, like you can use your bow, and there's mid range and everything too. So there's a bit of strategy in that sense. So it's not like crazy complex. It's not like you're playing Dark Souls or anything like that. But it's good for what the game is, and it would honestly be an excellent multiplayer game. It'd be so fun. Um, and yeah, it's a great world to kind of run around in and explore. And if you had some people that wanted to build stuff, people are building really cool things. Yeah.
Mm. Is it like big? It's not like an MMO though, but it's like
You can have up to 16 people in a server.
okay.
Mhm.
Dude, that's awesome. All right. If I hadn't just spent a bunch of money on stuff lately, I would be like buying this right now.
Well, again, it's in early access, so it'll be a while before it's like in its fully realized version. So there will be time. It's probably going to be like the cheapest now than it will be when it totally comes out. I'm at a weird point because I've pretty sure I've like beaten as much as the content that's available. And so I'm just sort of left hanging. Like I would like some sort of closure within the game, but I don't think
Huh.
that exists yet. But anyway, we'll keep going here. The fools of the old world ruthlessly mined the earth for a magical elixir and unleashed a ruinous fog and corrupted
It
creatures
delves too
from the
greedily and
depths.
too deep.
The kingdom was lost, but not before a few remaining warriors were placed in a long, dreamless sleep until such time as they could fight anew. That time has come. So let's break what we know about the plot down more thoroughly. In the world of Embervale, where the story takes place, there are 2 groups of sentient beings. There's humanity, and there are the Ancients. Not much is known about the Ancients, except that they possess advanced technology and have access to magic. One day, the Wanderer approaches mankind and offers them a forbidden fruit. What the Ancients once concealed from mankind, the elixir. It is described as a cure, a blessing, and a weapon. Humanity accepts the elixir, and it causes them to mistrust one another. They increasingly covet power, and wars break out, while they dig deeper wells underground to mine more elixir. Out of these wells, a subterranean curse is released onto Embervale, a corrupting fog that transforms the land and turns the living creatures it comes in contact with into horrifying monsters. With this, we can see our comparison to the Garden of Eden easily enough. You have humans and something resembling celestial beings. One of these beings goes rogue and offers humanity the forbidden knowledge of good and evil, which they are not ready for, and as a result, sin enters the world. Your character wakes up a long time after the curse has been released into the now post-apocalyptic fantasy medieval world. You emerge from a device called a Cinder Vault and are known as the Flameborn. As a Flameborn, unlike the NPCs in the story, you have the power to resist the Shroud's curse. Also, unlike the other characters in the story, you can commune with the flame because you came from it. While the other characters were born from humanity, the Flameborn's origins is the fire itself. It is as though your character was immaculately conceived by the fire into an artificial womb. Additionally, the Flameborn has the power
You
to
could even
overcome
see
death.
it as an angelic being, or even as like a Christian who's reborn and in communion with the Holy Spirit.
Well, I
So that's the
start to make
flame.
that distinction coming up too, because there is within these cinder vaults, the artificial womb that you emerge from, both the Flameborn is like born from the flame in that thing, right? In that vault. But
Hmm.
other characters who were born of humans, they enter into those vaults as a kind of stasis. And then the
Oh,
Flameborn revives them from those. So they would be like the new believers. That makes sense.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since any time they die, the flame resurrects them. When we carry this comparison into biblical stories, we find that fire often signifies the presence of God. Hold up, Cinder might jump into our call here as well,
Yo, let's go.
if I can figure out how to do this.
Cinder and I have been doing a lot of stuff lately, so let's see if we can get that man in here.
Here we go. Set the call.
I love the art style of this game. I mean, it's like kind of classic fantasy. It sounds like the kind of thing where it's like, dude, what if we could make a game and we could like build stuff, and also we could like, adventure, but also it's multiplayer, but you could also travel anywhere in the world and like break the environment, or you could build a cool structure, but it's like Skyrim, but it's like Minecraft.
It's awesome. It's really good. Yeah,
I
like it's
love that.
exactly what you're describing. Cinder, how's it going?
Hey guys, I have so many ideas on that game design thing, and I got a couple of our guys
Nice.
on my friends list that can do that. So let's visit that some other time.
Sweet. Are you kind of caught up on where we're 8 minutes into? Sorry, we're 4 minutes into this video. Are you kind of caught up so far? Are you tracking it?
I'm caught. Yeah, I've been tracking, but I'm also familiar with a lot of your conclusions on a lot of the other videos. So
Cool. Good.
I will speak when it's appropriate.
Okay. Cool. Let me know if you want me to stop at any point. You got some ad. Here we go. When God spoke to Moses in the burning bush, the pillar of fire that guided the Israelites out of Egypt, the Levitical law that stated that fire needed to be kept burning at the altars at all times, when God's presence appeared as fire over the tabernacle, with Elijah's contest against the prophets of Baal in Mount Carmel, during the
Oh,
dedication
I don't
of the
think we
temple when
can
fire...
see the video or hear it.
Oh, right. That would be because it gave it, give me a second here. That would be because it put us in like a new, hang on. It put us in a new call, so my previous screen share didn't work. You should be able to see it now, and you should be able to hear it. All that's done is I've cited all of these examples as times in the Bible that fire has come to represent the presence of God. That's
Perfect.
tell me if you can't hear. It came down from heaven. Or in the New Testament, when the Holy Spirit appeared as tongues of fire resting on believers. In Enshrouded, we set up fire altars to commune with the flame as it uses us to beat back the effects of the shroud's curse. Our character being the human incarnation of the flame itself. An obvious comparison here can be made to Jesus Christ, who in place of having come from the flame, left his abode in the light of heaven to live an earthly life. However, this isn't a perfect comparison, because while the Flameborn has power over death to respawn, he didn't come to Embervale on a mission to die and resurrect as the mechanism to lift the world's curse. Instead, dying is something that happens accidentally when you screw up, or as I call it, trying to recover my gear from the fell Wisp Wyvern boss at Pikemead's Reach over and over, because I didn't know I was going to be locked into a battle I wasn't leveled up enough yet for. Another potential difference is whether the Flameborn isn't the only begotten Son of God. Since Enshrouded is meant to be a multiplayer game that you can play with up to 16 players in a server, you are all Flameborn, sharing the role of the protagonist. However, apart from being more difficult, there seems to be no difference to the plot whether you play alone or as a group of people. so this seems like it's primarily a gameplay choice and less of a narrative choice. To make further comparisons, let's look at the role of the NPCs in the game. While the majority of characters in the world of Embervale suffer gruesome fates and are corrupted or transformed by the Shroud, some are able to escape. This is done by way of the same Cinder Vaults that brought the Flameborn into the world. These vaults don't just act as an artificial womb, they're also a stasis chamber for those already alive, who were born of humans, unlike the Flameborn. This is no simple task though. A leap of faith is required, because they must give up their lives as they know it, and enter the vaults to go into a state of being neither dead or alive. Being more than just symbolically baptized, they must take up their cross and pass through death, and trust that the Flameborn will revive them at some indeterminate point in the future. From there, they aid the Flameborn in lifting the curse from the land and reviving other NPCs from their vaults. Also of potential interest, one of the NPCs who plays an instrumental role in creating the Cinder Vaults is Balthazar, which is very similar to Belshazzar, who's commonly attributed to being one of the 3 wise men who followed the star to gift Jesus at his birth. As of yet, the game is not finished. We can speculate about where the story will go from here, but apart from wrapping it up by defeating some sort of final boss, I believe the major elements of the story have been laid out. As previously mentioned, it isn't a perfect analogy for the Christian worldview, but it's pretty close. The absence of any true atoning sacrifice from the protagonist is noticeable, but maybe constant exposure to the Shroud addresses this issue, as the Flameborn plunges himself into something resembling death in order to remove its roots and purify it. So there you go. There's the optimistic white pill so many have been requesting. A story that isn't a Gnostic inversion. Are you convinced? Or have you fallen for another inversion? A ruse. My purpose for creating the hidden... Thanks for Randy for the donation here. Meaning of series has always been to try and show people how to recognize when they're being led to or relate to stories containing Luciferian suggestions, which they may not have otherwise sympathized with were it not distributed to them through the medium of entertainment. This case is a good example for how a story being a few degrees off can still invert the meaning entirely, as it's possible that the closer something is to the truth while still deviating can make the inversion all the more powerful. To understand what I mean, let's fill in a few gaps in the game's lore by listening to how the creative director describes it. So a bit of insider baseball here. What's happened is that I engaged with this media because I thought that it was a Christian allegory. And I build this whole case for, hey, here's how it's a Christian allegory. And yeah, there's maybe a few things that aren't exactly perfect, but it's pretty close, right? While in the process of analyzing it, I figured out that no, it is actually another inversion. so now we're going to go back at all of those points and we're going to recontextualize them and show how it is an inversion.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, and I also want to point out too, I think for maybe some of the people who aren't as initiated in your content or the stuff you've covered before, I think the part of the reason why you keep coming back to a lot of these stories being inversions of Christianity or relating to the story of Christ, relating to the story of Scripture, is because for the Christian, like, we realize that when Christ came to earth and when he lived his life and when we partook in this story, it's like this became the central story of human history. And every story after that is in some way in dialogue with it or in some sort of relation to it. So there's no, the hero's journey or any sort of story that's being told. There's always some connection, or especially for these grandiose stories. And it's like a lot of these video games are trying to tell these kind of cosmic or grand stories of creation and destruction. A lot of these come down to being in some way either affirming or more often rejecting or twisting the basic core elements of the Christian story.
Totally, totally. Um, yeah, and for this one, it was like I wanted it to be a Christian allegory. That's the thing that gets me about a lot of this stuff is that it's like, people think that you just go around trying to poke holes and spoil other people's fun. But it's like, this game is so much fun. I'm playing it being like, I want to be able to enjoy it on that level where it like resonates and sort of like reaffirms my own beliefs about the structure of the universe itself, right? So it's sort of like disappointing for me to then realize that no, it's actually not that. It's actually counter to that.
The only true Christian video games are the ones that Terry made on his operating system, his divine operating system.
Well, it's so many of these games put you in the position of Messiah, which I think is like on purpose. So that there's this idea that at some point, like you are your own savior and
Hmm.
you can save yourself.
Hmm. Yeah, I've been toying with the idea of um, like if I were to take all of the story, it's one thing for me to go and point out all the inversions, right? But if I were to take all the stories that I've already analyzed and be like, okay, well, what would need to change in order to not make it an inversion, to like reset it, to set it correct? Because each story would require a slightly different thing. And yeah, I think that would be a very interesting exercise as well. Because it's
Well, an
like
ultimate,
it's not impossible. It's not impossible to make these as proper allegories.
yeah, ultimately you would need that character to submit to to a higher power, like submit to a Christ figure wherein they achieve salvation, and that power is never theirs.
Mhm.
It's always the savior working through the character as long as he is in, constant communion, shunning his former self, picking up his cross daily. And
And
that's kind of a hard circle
Kind
to
of
square.
almost a bit Dark Souls there. But it's also like, have you guys seen all the memes that go around sometimes of video game characters and they're like praying, they're like going to church,
Yeah,
like
yeah. No,
Jesus
I
is
like
patting them on the back.
the link from Zelda, like kneeling at the cross and praying before he
Yeah,
goes out to do battle.
well,
confirmed Christian.
the original the original Link character, there was supposed to be kind of like Christian suggestions to it. There was like a cross in some of his early iconography and stuff, but it's and that's not to say that in order for it to be a proper Christian allegory, you don't get to be the hero, because it's like you can be the hero of the story. It just has to stay within a certain domain. And the domain that it shouldn't cross into is okay, now you get to usurp God, and that's what a lot of these end up being. Like, Subnautica, it's like you're essentially, it's always like you're trying to fix the sin of the world. And you're trying to like become equal to some sort of being that represents time itself. That always has been, Alduin. That's who you're trying to like conquer. It's like, okay, well, that's a little bit more than just like being the hero. That's becoming God. Anyway, let's keep going here. An interview. There's been an event which basically opened the door for an evil force to enter the world, that basically took out all the existing cultures that lived there before, like humans, and another race called the Ancients, which were less related to each other before this event. They basically saw the end coming, and then created something that combined their powers to potentially have the chance to take back the world, as they couldn't prevent it themselves at this point in time. So that's the general background for how the Flameborn came into existence, merging this human shell with the specific power of this other race, which are more of a hive mind. I don't know if I need to talk too much more about the details there, but yeah, they work a bit different, collect knowledge, and are less interested in human things in general. Each single race couldn't face the evil at that point in time, so they tried to combine their force in that one. So we've now learned that the Ancients have become a hive mind that humanity must merge with in order to survive. That alone recontextualizes the story presented. Sorry, I just got a super chat, allegedly from Owen Benjamin, and it says, I'm outside your house right now. Please come out and debate me on the Trinity. I'm streaming on my Android 7.
That sounds like a big opportunity. Do
Yeah.
you need to?
I
Do you
think
need to
that
get
sounds
out there?
real. That sounds real to me.
I mean, I definitely did poke the bear a while back. So thank you for that super chat. That was very generous of you, allegedly, Owen Benjamin. I will say too about the analysis here. So there were two distinct points where I started to realize that this was an inversion, right? Because again, at first I thought it was just a Christian allegory. The first point that kind of like caused me to be suspicious was when I realized that the Flameborn didn't just come through the flame, but he came through the flame through the use of a human technology, the Cinder Vault, right?
Mm.
When I heard that, I was like, okay, so it was an artificial womb. Now this is starting to like hint a little bit at something transhumanist. And then,
Can you also explain what the creative director was saying and what kind of how that ties in? Because that it kind of went over my head
sure, let's go
in
back to
terms
that
of
a little bit.
lore
There's
speak.
there's like a real major component here because this was the next thing is um, like essentially once I analyzed it, then I ended up hearing what he said about it, and then it recontextualized the whole thing for me. And the key points are him talking about so when you had these two races of beings, one's human and the other are the ancients, right? And I'm comparing them to some sort of like angelic celestial type being. And then the Wanderer comes along, and we don't know what the Wanderer is. He's probably an ancient, but we're not really sure. He gives this magical elixir, and that technology, that magic had been kept from humanity because humanity wasn't mature enough to be able to handle it, right?
Yeah.
And it basically causes humanity to go drunk with power. They start to fight each other, and they start to mine for more elixir. You could also make a lot of really easy comparisons to like oil as well. But so anyway, this causes this catastrophic event to occur across the world, and it starts to mutate people. They start to go, into these shroud monsters. Well, the ancients, they we don't know whether they die out or whether they kind of go into some sort of undying land, like Lord of the Rings or whatever. But they disappear, and instead they become a part of this hive mind, which is represented in the flame. And the Cinder Vault, that technology, is an effort to merge humanity with that hive mind, which we're going to make a comparison here to Subnautica, to the Black Cube. But when I heard that when I made the connection that it was about merging with this like angelic race, this like Borg mind from the angelic race, I was like, oh no, this is definitely a transhumanist inversion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not only do you get hybridization, sort of like the higher and the lower coming together, or like what you get kind of in Genesis, where you get the sons of God and the daughters of women, and then you create this new thing. But also, it's the human becomes the shell, and the mind. So like the body or the human is like a host for a hive mind, for this like
Exactly.
otherworldly hive mind. That's crazy.
Yes.
That's like
Yes.
it's like a form of sort of um like hive mind intelligence possession of the human body.
Well,
Yeah.
that's. Go ahead, Cinder.
Go ahead.
No,
Oh,
you
well,
first.
you sort of get that pushed forward with the mark of the beast, right? It's like you're communing with the son of perdition, who is motivated by Satan, motivated by Lucifer. When you take that mark, you become essentially their property. You are
Exactly.
communing with those evil spirits as opposed to standing alone in Christ.
Exactly. Yeah. And like we've had plenty of conversations on this channel about like the demonic blind spots that are being created within AI, and we've been kind of theorizing about these demonic entities using AI to connect into our brains to use us as hosts for their will, you know. So, and that's what's happening in this story one way or another.
Could you even say that's something that happens with I don't know. I'm trying to think of other forces that exist. They're basically like hive minds. I mean, you get that idea in the Matrix as well. That people are, if you're not awake from the Matrix, you are part of it. And or there's this idea too that, people are kind of possessed by ideology or possessed by forces beyond them. You kind of get that. You get that now, even though people aren't plugged into computers directly. We don't have chips in our brains yet. People
Right.
still kind of behave as though they are. A lot of people still, they can get their programming. They're plugged into the hive mind, and that can operate at both a spiritual and a mimetic level.
Right. That was an argument that came up in my debate with Heem. He was like, "Why are you so worried about this transhumanist agenda? You carry your phone around with you all the time. You're already plugged in." And the counter that I made to that was, I was like, "Yeah, but that's voluntary. I can put my phone down whenever I want." And if we have theoretically, if we have some sort of Neuralink going on, it's almost like it has, in my understanding of these things anyway, which is purely theoretical. Like, I'm just speculating. It makes sense to me that it would be able to sort of pass the firewall of your own free will. And that's what freaks me out about all this stuff, is it's like, it's an attempt to override free will. Like, they've made it very clear that they have, whether you look at MK Ultra programs or whatever, it's like the attempt is to curb people's will into their desires.
Now what? Okay, now here's a counterpoint. Now,
Mhm.
what if the Flameborn? What if this? Maybe hive mind is the wrong way to put it, because if he's, the Flameborn are communicating with this higher, higher intelligence, higher spirit of the flame. It's like that is kind of in some ways analogous to the Christian. It's like, the Christian, instead of being enslaved to the spirit of the age, to the hive mind of the age, we could say it's enslaving ourselves to the Holy Spirit, to God. But then through that elevates us
Right. Well,
to being like friends with God.
that's why I start the video out, because like you definitely could make that argument. And that's why I start the video out by making the argument that, hey, here's a Christian allegory. And now
Yeah,
we're where we are now, because the reality too is that everyone can commune with spirits, whether you're a Christian or not. Like,
right.
everyone can enter into that sort of exchange. It's just a matter of what being and what entity it is that you're like pouring your spiritual interest towards. And you know, people will think that either you apply that towards God and something happens, or you apply it towards something else and nothing happens. But I don't think that's the case. It's like, if you stare into the abyss will stare back, and like something will answer. And it doesn't mean that it's God. And like Revelation talks about there being counterfeit miracles even. So I think there's something there. I just don't think it's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, that was the main point that the creative director is bringing up here, is that it's a hive mind that they merge with, humans now merge with. And that was the light bulb for me, where I was like, oh no, we're talking about, yeah, some sort of transhumanist Nephilim type thing. Things in general. Each single race couldn't face the evil at that point in time, so they tried to combine their force in that one. So we've now learned that the ancients have become a hive mind that humanity must merge with in order to survive. That alone recontextualizes the story presented. It makes us ask, what is the flame? Is it the presence of God, or merely access to that hive mind? Of note is that the game actually describes the fire as the coalescent flame, coalescent being to conjoin or merge. If we look back and remember how the Saturn cube was described in the Subnautica video, the Saturn cube can be described as a hive mind god. The Saturn cube is the entrapped physical world which they wish to undo, to get an all-flowing hive of all minds combined into a greater intelligence. The hive is the new Messiah they wish to bring about. Saturn worship has the end goal of joining humanity together into a giant hive mind meta-life form. If the ancients are gone, and the flame is the remnant of the hive mind they left behind, does this make it similar to a digital recording or an AI, like we saw in the Talos principle? In both cases, knowledge was stored in the spires. I cut it out, but the flame in this game, it is both a fire, but there's also like electrical artifacts to it. There's kind of like a lightning running through it too. So they are almost hinting at something digital as well. It's not just fire. We should also point out that the Flameborn emerged from man-made technology. If the purpose of this technology was to merge humanity with the powers of the ancients, is it reasonable to compare the Cindervault to something like a Neuralink, making this another transhumanist ascension story? If the flame isn't a stand-in for the presence of God, is it more representative of the flame in a Gnostic Luciferian sense? Is it too far to compare the hive mind of the ancients to the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim, demonic spirits guiding humans to create the technology that they'll merge with so that they can have bodies to inhabit, perhaps until a true Antichrist comes along, a flameborn, devoid of the image of God in an actual human soul? If this is a story about... I missed an opportunity too to point out that the Antichrist is describing as suffering a fatal blow and like being revived. And that's different than the Savior sacrificing his life. You know, because that was the criticism that I had earlier when I was like, it's not a perfect allegory because he's not coming to give up his life as the means of fixing the world. However, he can die and he comes back. And it's like, well, that's what the Antichrist is described to do too. I can't remember if it's the Antichrist or the beast, but one of the two. Yeah. Transhumanist ascension. We notice that the only ones worthy of surviving the shroud are those who yielded their humanity and give up the image of God to merge with a conduit that allows the flame to take their very soul, to accept their mark of the beast. In fact, maybe the shroud isn't even a curse at all. What is seen as the shroud could be a warped projection by those possessed who gave themselves over to the flame. The shroud being depicted as contamination, just a hysterical straw man. The subterranean threat actually representing the judgment of hell. The undead it produces are just those who made the decision to repent and change their lives in accordance with the knowledge that they will one day be judged, so they respect and fear God, modifying their behavior in alignment with Him, yielding their own self-interest, making them appear irrational or mindless to the values of those who are possessed. Was the Wanderer even a Luciferian serpent figure who granted humanity the forbidden fruit, causing sin to enter the world? Or was it an evangelist who brought the gospel and knowledge of a spiritual world, in so causing wars to break out in reaction to the exposure of what the human heart is? Christ himself having said, "I did not come to bring peace but a sword." The elixir is a cure and a blessing, but also unleashed a curse, similar to how the law of God is described as honey at first, until it becomes bitter. Its corrective action is refreshing, until one commits themselves to it and discovers that they will never be able to live up to its demands, and they are in need of redemption from it entirely. One comment that I bump into a lot in my series as well is like the argument that I'm making there, where I'm saying that you know, what if the shroud is this like divine judgment and it's people having to contend with eternity and like eternal death, and that transforms them, it transforms their will. And the criticism that I come up with in a lot of these videos is it's like, yeah, but the good guys are supposed to look good and the bad guys are supposed to look bad, you know? It's like, yeah, but my whole point here is that this is a story being told from the serpent's perspective. So of course he's going to make the good people look bad, you know? It was like in the Lego movie where Lord Business's henchmen, they started out as robots and they are later skeletons, you know? And which is very interesting if it's like, from our point of view, from where we're seeing things, the followers of Christ are the ones who will be resurrected and like live for eternity, right? So interesting that this show would then depict them as skeletons, you know, and it's the same thing here. So
Yeah, well, that's a good point too, and I think there's a tendency among, maybe not as much conservatives, but like right wingers when they're looking at media or looking at something to want to automatically, so, you know, because they believe beauty is inherently good, which, I think that's probably a true statement.
Mhm.
They they put so much weight on that they're like, well, beauty and the beautiful characters are always the good ones. And, you can never have an ugly character or a character that's not as beautiful as the most beautiful character that's better. Because they just sort of commit to the bit to
Right.
the degree that it's like they're just totally like blinding themselves. When it's
Right.
like scripture's a lot more complicated than that. It's like it's a lot more nuanced. It's like, yes, beauty comes from God. Beauty is this, you know, is beauty is good. It's an inherently good thing. However, beauty, there is such a thing as surface level beauty.
Mhm.
God looks at the inside, he looks at the heart. That's what is valued a lot more. It's that sort of it's the heart that matters ultimately more than the outward appearance. And although the outward appearance can be a manifestation of, if someone is living righteously, then often you can sort of see that in their outward appearance. Nonetheless, there's still, I mean, how many, this is something people have kind of always known is you can still have the beautiful figure who's evil, whether they're the seductress or so forth, that, the outward appearances are deceiving.
Mhm.
Well,
Well,
and then we have in Isaiah 53, in what we believe it to be in context of Christ, speaking that he has no form or comeliness, that when we see him, there's no beauty that we should desire him.
mm,
Right, right.
And the only one that's really referred to as beautiful is the angels, of which Lucifer is one or was one.
Correct.
and
Yeah.
considered to be like the most beautiful in many senses, the most aesthetic. Um, yeah.
So it's like, yeah. So I think the Christian challenge to the sort of and the right wing position on that sort of stuff is reactionary. It's a reaction just because we happen to be in a time in history where beauty is kind of demonized or ugly. It's more so that ugliness is glorified.
Mhm.
That ugliness, and there's never any points in scripture where ugliness is glorified. It's rather that you know beauty, although desirable, is certainly it's only you have to think a little deeper than just, oh, pretty thing equals good. It's like actually sometimes the beautiful thing can be deceiving. Sometimes that beautiful frog is actually a poison dart frog, and if you touch it, you're dead.
Well, and conversely, sometimes a thing that's considered ugly, um, maybe like it did nothing wrong.
Right.
There's the
Right.
person who I forget what their disability was, whether they were paralyzed or
Lepers.
deaf or something like that. But it's like they're all going up to Jesus saying, "Who sinned? Was it him or was it his parents that he's disabled?" you know,
Right.
or you
Right.
take the widow's offering, and that is something like the widow wasn't some high society beautiful person we're to assume, right? It's like this is a person on the low rung of society, and Jesus is saying that she's given the most. He's honoring her more than other people, right?
Yeah,
So
we have to get beyond the sort of ape brain, the sort of everything is just reacting to everything else, reacting to the culture of the time as well, because you know because the Bank of America has an ad and everyone's ugly. Well, that means that every beautiful person is morally righteous and morally trustworthy. It's like, well, okay, both things could be incorrect at the same time. Like beauty can still be desirable and can
right,
still be something that you should seek to have in your culture, but also and ugliness doesn't necessarily mean that something is immoral or the result of poor morality, but also, yeah, you can have a little nuance, or you can have a little, intelligence to it.
right. Because if you don't possess that ability to do that, then a story like this is going to like completely deceive you.
Yeah.
So, which do you think Enshrouded is? An allegory for the Christian worldview, or another inversion? Maybe neither? If you felt fooled by this video's bait and switch, how much more vulnerable would you be if a similar inversion took place without your knowledge, coming from a church, from behind a pulpit, and not just some random guy on the internet? It's important that we know the show. That's not a recommendation to not go to church, by the way. I was really on the fence about leaving that line in. It's not me telling people don't go to church. It's just me saying, like, don't just assume that because something is said in the church, that means that it's 100% green light. You know, there's plenty of like rainbow flag churches out there.
Real,
God's
real.
voice, a God who spoke through parables and riddles to conceal meanings so that only those with ears would hear it. If you're annoyed that I didn't give you your perfectly crafted new Christian allegory to be refreshed by, and you're still hungering, perhaps that's an indication that you're supposed to be the one to write the new allegory, or at the very least, to find it in pre-existing work and make a case for it. For myself, as I near middle age, I look back at why I became a Christian in the first place as a teenager, even after so many of my peers have since fallen away over the decades. I think for most people it's just a matter of the culture they're surrounded by, which is why I felt it so important to decode the messages that popular culture is creating. I read the Bible and saw that it contained the perfect story. It explained everything I needed about the world around me, at least the important things anyway, about human nature, the consequences of our actions, the necessary conditions for our redemption. But since this is meant to be a story about Enshrouded, I'll wrap up by saying that the game's been fun. People are building some very impressive things, and it's one of the better survival crafting games I've ever played. If it's up your alley and you have the time, I would recommend it. That being said, as much as I wanted it to be, I wouldn't expect it to be more than just another hidden meaning of story. Thank you for watching. Boom.
Woo! Dude, that was awesome.
Did you see the twist coming?
No, I was like, oh, sweet, it's gonna be a actual, it's gonna be a good allegory, or it's gonna be some sort of Christian underpinnings metaphysically. No, foiled again.
False. Welcome to
Black-pilled
despair.
again. It's over.
How
Pack
dare
it
you
in,
think
boys.
that?
No, but I love the hopeful message at the end and kind of the call to action, and not just passively engage with stuff, but actually like create something or find real stories of truthful meaning in them.
Well, and it's important for us to be discerning, right? That's what we're commanded to do, and to be effective at discerning, you have to be in the Word, and you have to be well versed. And if you're not, you're going into battle without any armor. So it's good to bring this stuff out there and question it, because it forces us to return to the text and confirm our biases.
Yeah.
Or disconfirm them.
Confirm our bias. Yeah. And I think too, it's like there's a reason that so many churches and so many Christians fell for things like COVID, or just, it's like there's so many that are so tapped into the spirit of the age right now. And they don't possess that kind of discernment. And I feel like if they did, they would be able to engage with stories like this and come to a lot of the same conclusions that I have. But a lot of them, like, they literally don't refine that part of them, and they don't possess the ability to do that. So no wonder they get fooled in the real world, because they can't even not get fooled by these stories.
Well, I found just watching videos like yours, and like some ones that other people have done, has made me much better at picking up on some of these patterns in media. So it's not like by you doing this work, it's actually helping other people, or at least certainly helping me discern media better and stories better, because I'm kind of picking up on the patterns more clearly, learning how to kind of see the layers of meaning to stuff, because there's kind of a methodology you have, and following your methodology I think it's a training practice.
Yeah, there's a couple of tropes that we just keep seeing.
Yeah, these videos have been really helpful, and if only you could like put them in book form in some way, and that would be available for purchase maybe sometime in late 2024, early 25.
If only there was like you could just like watch them for free on YouTube too. That would be amazing.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
You could just enjoy.
So to what Cinder's saying there, I did have a realization here that I was like, holy crap, this is the 5th video that I've made. Like, I was blown away when I made like 3. I was like, wow, this is a trilogy. and now we're on the 5th, and I'm realizing that I have a whole nother script that I never made a video to because it was too similar to the Lego movie for Free Guy, and I'm aware
Oh
that
yeah, Free Guy's totally. Yeah.
totally, yeah. So I'm very
Even
aware.
even me, even I noticed that. Even I was like, at the end, they have their sort of weird egalitarian communist utopia in the sky
Yeah,
in their
yeah.
digital matrix world,
It's pretty
and
heavy
I'm like,
handed.
yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, I came to the conclusion where it's like I have a lot of content, like a lot of things have been discussed here. Um, yeah, maybe I turn this into a book. Originally, I was thinking, I bet I could just take the transcript from these videos and put them through an AI and turn that
mhm,
into like chapters and then just edit it. But now I'm kind of like, I would probably need to just kind of like write the book from the ground up using
mm.
my previous videos as a bit of a framework for structure. But
Just put pictures in it. Just make sure they're pictures. That'll help
well,
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
you should put pictures in there, and if only we knew a
some very
really
skilled
talented
artists. Yeah.
artist. If only.
Cinder,
Yeah.
do you paint or illustrate?
No, I don't,
We're
but
talking about
I have.
perplexity.
Yeah, we're
Oh,
talking about
okay.
perplexity.
Nice. I could try to cook up a sketch or something.
Oh yeah, Nord can draw. Nathan, have you seen his stuff?
Can you actually, Matt?
Uh,
Gi-
kind of.
Oh, I
give
think
him
I saw
time.
you do a portrait once, and I was like, wait, where did this come from?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can link you a couple of stuff.
I would
Mhm.
give him time, dude. Nord, you should start, throwing an hour a day into it. I know you got a lot to do, but
I'd love
like
to.
by the time Nathan had his manuscript together and ready for publishing, I think you could probably be killer illustrator at that point. Because
One
he's
thing,
already pretty good. I was impressed.
one thing I would like to do is, sorry. Okay. One thing I would like to do is, have you guys ever seen the Bible Project?
wait.
Yeah.
Is that's not the audio one? Is that the?
It's a YouTube
No,
series.
that's not the Chosen.
No,
No.
no, the Bible Project, they do have a YouTube channel, but they have like picture books too, like big special edition picture books.
Oh, is that the one where it's like a graphic novel, like something like
Yeah, a
that?
lot of times, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I remember even back in the day seeing friends with that.
they they have, I don't know if you guys can see this. Oh, sorry. That's unfortunate. You guys, I guess I can put this in the chat too. It's too much to multitask. Um, so they have this picture of the Divine Council, which I really like in one of their videos. And I've been thinking of, the graph that I often use when I'm trying to explain the gospel and I'm trying to explain the inversion.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Matt sending stuff here. Oh, wow. Matt, that's very good.
Thank you.
Yeah,
We're
yeah, I'd seen
doing my
the
best.
other portrait there. Oh, Cinder's out here. Cinder, thank you for popping in.
He's got another stream he's
I much
hopping onto.
appreciate it.
He's booked. He's booked full.
Well, we'll close up here and then we'll all go raid his
Yeah,
stream
you're stuck
next.
with me.
Yeah. So I guess Matt, I can probably just send you the link here.
Sick.
So the
Okay, I see the image.
the graphic that I use to explain the gospel and then to also explain the inverted gospel, I would like to create something like this
That's cool.
to depict that as well. And I have this idea. I don't know if this would be like the cover of the book or not. I should probably just get like a professional to do the cover, but or to design the cover. But you know how in Skyrim there's like Alduin's Wall that tells the prophetic story of
Yes.
Alduin.
Yeah.
And same thing with like Zelda Breath of the Wild, where there and in God of War, there's always these like murals that will tell the story. And I want to create something like that where there's like just this mural that is peppered with symbolism that's explaining the gospel and then this inverted gospel, and it's on like this wall, and maybe you have the Lego character and like Alduin and the Subnautica guy or whatever, they're all just staring at it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's the idea anyway.
Man, how much time did it take you to make this video? Because you had to actually play the game too.
Yeah, the nice thing is that I pretty much flew through the game. Like that wasn't too difficult.
Nice. That's the fun part.
Yeah. Although it's always a little bit more challenging when you're playing them not from an entertainment perspective, but from like an analysis perspective.
Mm. Mhm.
This one didn't take me too long, to be honest. It took me maybe about a week. And like what keeps me busy these days, how I've got my hands full.
Oh, yeah.
But
Oh, yeah.
like for instance, I recorded the audio of that, the narration of that at like 2 a.m. This was a lot of me just like sneaking in an hour or two here or there, as opposed to
Yeah.
usually when I create my videos, I just have to binge over a few days. So this one was a bit more healthy and broken up.
That's good. That's
Yeah,
good. No, and you communicate your message concisely, but still with a lot of depth to it at the same time.
yeah, this one's the shortest one too. It's only 15 minutes, but I feel like it didn't need to be any more than that.
That's good. I think 15 minutes is a really nice sweet spot. I should restrain myself and try that.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, again, I've been posting in the chat a bunch. If you guys want to go to my, whoops, that's not the video. Um, that's this graphic. I've been posting in the chat. If you guys want to go to my other channel, check out the video, give it a watch without us talking about it. Give it a like and everything. Share it with people you think are going to enjoy it. Pass it around. If you want to, I don't know, if you want to post it on different like Reddit boards or spread it around that kind of way too, like go for it. If you think this is a good thing, proselytize the message a little bit, right? Um,
Share the
but
gospel.
yeah, well, there you go, right?
Kind
Um,
of indirectly, yeah. I mean, it's doing this stuff is kind of there's a strong ministry element to it.
I wouldn't be doing this if it weren't for that reason. Like that is
Yeah,
singularly the only reason I'm motivated enough to make any of these at all. And all of my online content boils down to this. It's like
right.
this is the reason that I do any of this.
Well,
Um,
you never know who's listening, and you never know how people might, there's you're planting a seed here that, might develop, and then someone
right.
it affects their life later on, or they,
And people
they
have
find
said as
God later on.
much. People have said as much as well. But all of the like me talking about politics and me making joke skits and all that kind of stuff, that's sort of just me being like a social animal enough to earn enough credibility and respect for
Mm,
people to care about my opinions when it comes to these kind of things too.
real.
Yeah.
And I love what one thing I really appreciate is just the sincerity. There's not, it's not layered in like cynicism. It's like you're one of the like least cynical people, which is just wonderful. You have this kind of like simultaneously mixing your experience and maturity, but still having this childlike sense of wonder and interest and fascination with the world around you and with games and stories and all this. And it's like it's awesome. It's like you have this aliveness to you, or this quality that's like, people who are in their teens get way more jaded and burnt out, and like they're like 15 and they're like, I'm done with this world. Everything sucks. Everything's meaningless. It's all just,
Well, that's a
it's
normal
not cool
phase.
it's uncool to care about anything.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I was probably a little bit edgy that way too when I was their age, but no, a lot of it comes from I always feel bad when people, if they watch these things and say my analysis like dissuades them from liking the game. It's like you ruined Skyrim for me, and it's like no, it shouldn't ruin it. Like we can still appreciate it for what it is. We just need
Yeah,
to also accept that it's saying something that isn't reflective of the world that we live in. Because,
right.
and I face this criticism a lot with the Talos principle, where people are like, they're like, I feel like you're being disingenuous. And a lot of this is just Reddit talk, right? This is how Redditors speak. But
Yeah,
they're like, I feel like you're being disingenuous because, um, he has to disobey the Elohim in order to pass the program. That's how it was set up. And I'm like, I know it says that it's set up that way, but I'm critical of people who are taking that and mapping that onto their real lives the way that the author of the story is intending you to through his own
yeah.
words.
Yeah, and I think it should be a wake-up call or a call to action to people who are kind of sick of it's like, hey, if you don't like that every story coming out, or like 90% of stories coming out are some sort of Gnostic conversion, or there's some sort of subversive or anti-Christian, anti-Western, anti-truth, pick your poison.
Mhm.
If you're upset that, media coming out, or anti-masculine or whatever, if you're upset that all these stories are this way, then that should be a call to action that if you're gifted or talented in some way, uh, that lends to it, it's like time. I think it's time for more, good storytellers, good creators, creatives to kind of get together and make material to rival it.
I agree. Totally agree. All right, let's wrap things up there. Is there anything you want to plug, Matt, on your way out?
I mean, if you guys like history and mythology and stuff like that, videos kind of a similar style. I post stuff on my YouTube channel, but other than that, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, give me a second to find your YouTube channel here, and we'll throw the link in. Do you have any idea where Cinder is going to be next? What he jumped off to go?
Cinder is going to be on Hitman. Was it 0971's channel? Just Hitman.
Well, surely
Or
searching.
9801. Yeah, so if you just look up at Hitman 9801, they're streaming about romanticism and film. So it should be a topic that kind of flows pretty well from this.
Cool. So I'll share that as well, and I'm going to shut down this stream. Let's go raid them over there. Okay, we'll give them a
Awesome.
shout out.
All right, put the link in chat.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Again, check out the video on the original channel. And yeah, have a good one.
Thanks for making this, Nathan.
Thanks for joining me. Let's stream snipe them. Oh.
Oh, thank you for that. And just to address the comment in the chat, Michael K, 19th C fan, would the adaptations of Wuthering Heights and Jane Eyre be considered romantic filmmaking considering the source material? I'm actually not that familiar with the work of the Bronte sisters, unfortunately. I do know it was from the early 19th century, so I guess it does comply with the Romantic period. Have you got anything to sort of add on to that, John? Or?
Yeah, I think it totally could, but what they're wrestling with is it's been a while